Mindfulness is a space for gentle reflection and real-life wisdom, where ancient teachings meet modern understanding. Pain is not always the enemy. In fact, it can be the strict teacher we never asked for, but often need. When life hands us moments of heartbreak, loss, or deep struggle, the instinct is to push them away, bury them under distractions, or numb them with busyness. But as Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh often reminds us, no mud, no lotus. Without the thick, messy mud, there can be no pure, beautiful lotus flower. I still remember a winter morning when my world felt like it had collapsed. I had just lost someone dear, and the air outside was heavy with gray silence. Everything seemed meaningless. In that numbness, I stumbled upon a short teaching by Thich Nhat Hanh about mindful breathing. It sounded too simple, almost trivial. But that day, I tried. One breath in, one breath out. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, just enough for me to notice that I was still here. Still breathing, still alive. That tiny opening changed everything. American Zen teacher Jack Kornfield often speaks of tending to the wound rather than pretending it's not there. Pain demands presence. When we turn toward it with gentle awareness, we begin to understand what it's trying to teach us. Sometimes it's resilience. Sometimes it's compassion. Sometimes it's simply the reminder that we are human, connected to others through the same fragile, messy experience of being alive. In the West, we're often taught to move on quickly, to fix things and get back to normal. But Buddhist practice invites us to do something different, to stay with our suffering long enough to transform it, not by forcing it to change, but by allowing it the space to breathe. Just as compost turns waste into nourishment, the mind and heart can turn hardship into wisdom. This isn't about romanticizing pain or pretending it's beautiful. Pain can be brutal, but it can also be a mirror, showing us the parts of ourselves we didn't know existed, the strength we carry, the tenderness we've buried, the love we're capable of. By sitting with the discomfort, as Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, we suffer less, and we help others suffer less. The first step in transforming pain is simply to stop running from it. Let it sit beside you. Breathe with it. Notice its edges, its weight, its temperature. This is not weakness. It's courage. Over time, the sharpness dulls, the lessons emerge, and something new begins to grow in the space where the wound once was. In this way, pain becomes not a wall that blocks our path, but a bridge that carries us to a deeper, more compassionate understanding of ourselves and the world. And that is the quiet miracle of transformation. There's a moment in every storm when the rain is so heavy, you can't see the road ahead. Life feels like that sometimes, relentless, blinding, and disorienting. We search for shelter, but what if the real refuge is not somewhere outside, but within us? Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that mindfulness is coming home to ourselves. When we are hurt, lost, or angry, we tend to scatter our energy, replaying the past, worrying about the future. But in the middle of the storm, the present moment is the only safe ground. One mindful breath, one step, one heartbeat. It becomes an anchor when the world feels like it's spinning too fast. I remember a story shared by American meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg. She spoke about how, during a period of deep grief, she would often sit quietly and repeat the phrase, "May I be safe, may I be healthy, may I live with ease." At first, the words felt hollow, almost like lying to herself. But day after day, the repetition was like planting seeds in dry soil. Eventually, small shoots of peace began to grow. The grief didn't disappear, but it stopped being the only thing alive in her. The transformation of suffering isn't instant. It's more like the way winter slowly gives way to spring. The ice doesn't melt all at once. The sun returns gradually. And yet, when you look back, you realize the landscape has completely changed. Buddhist practice invites us to see pain not as a punishment, but as a messenger. Sometimes the message is that we need to slow down. Sometimes it's that we need to let go of something or someone that no longer serves our growth. Other times, it's simply that life is fragile, and we should love more fiercely while we can. In American culture, we're often told to stay strong, but strength doesn't always look like holding it all together. Sometimes it's in the trembling voice that asks for help. Sometimes it's in the quiet decision to rest. And sometimes it's in choosing not to close our hearts, even after they've been broken. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few." Pain, strangely enough, can return us to that beginner's mind. It humbles us. It reminds us that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. This openness is fertile ground for compassion, not only toward ourselves, but toward everyone who has ever felt lost, hurt, or afraid. The beauty of turning toward our suffering is that it transforms the way we see others. When we've walked through our own darkness, we recognize the shadows in someone else's eyes. And instead of judging, we might sit beside them in silence just so they know they're not alone. That's the quiet power of shared humanity. It's the medicine we carry without even realizing it. So when life hurts, and it will, try not to shut the door. Instead, invite the pain in for tea. Ask it what it has come to teach you. Listen. Breathe. Trust that, like the lotus rising from the mud, something beautiful is already growing inside you. You may not see it yet, but it's there. There's a quiet paradox about suffering. When we fight it, it grows sharper. But when we hold it gently, it begins to soften. Thich Nhat Hanh often described this as embracing your suffering like a mother holds her crying child. You don't scold the child for crying, and you don't ignore it. You hold it, you stay present, you offer warmth. In the same way, we can learn to cradle our own pain with tenderness. I once met a woman at a mindfulness retreat in California who shared her story during a group circle. She had been carrying decades of bitterness toward her father for leaving the family when she was young. She thought forgiveness was impossible. Until one morning during walking meditation, she imagined her father as a small boy. She saw him not as the man who hurt her, but as a frightened child who never learned how to love well. In that moment, something broke open inside her. She began to cry. Not tears of anger, but of release. It didn't mean what happened was okay, but it meant she was no longer trapped in the cage of resentment. That is the power of deep seeing. Jack Kornfield often tells his students that forgiveness is not about condoning the wrong. It's about freeing the heart from the prison of the past. This freedom doesn't arrive in a single moment. It unfolds through small acts of courage, sitting with discomfort, telling the truth about our pain, and letting the heart soften, just a little, each time. In our fast-paced culture, we're taught to heal as quickly as possible, as if pain has an expiration date. But the mind and heart work on their own timetable. Think of it like gardening. You can't rush a seed into bloom. All you can do is water it, give it sunlight, and trust the process. The same is true for healing. Your only job is to create the right conditions, and life will take care of the rest. One practical way to begin this process is through mindful journaling. Set aside 10 minutes each day to write, not to make sense of everything, but simply to give your emotions a safe place to land. Thich Nhat Hanh encouraged writing letters to our pain, just as we would to a dear friend. You might write, "Dear sadness, I see you. I know you are here for a reason. I am listening." By acknowledging the feeling instead of running from it, you remove its power to dominate your life. Sharon Salzberg has a simple yet profound practice she calls loving kindness meditation. You silently repeat phrases like, "May I be safe? May I be healthy? May I live with ease?" Then, you extend the same wishes to someone you love, someone neutral, someone difficult, and finally to all beings everywhere. This widening circle of compassion has the power to shift the way we relate to ourselves and the world. The most beautiful transformations I've seen, both in myself and in others, don't come from dramatic breakthroughs. They come from these steady, almost invisible acts of presence, from showing up for ourselves every single day, even when the storm clouds haven't lifted yet. From trusting that the heart knows how to mend itself if we give it the space and time. And here's the quiet truth. Sometimes the pain never fully disappears. Sometimes it becomes part of who we are, like a scar on the skin. But that scar is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that we've lived, that we've endured, and that we've chosen to keep our hearts open in a world that often asks us to close them. If you can carry your pain with tenderness, you can also carry the pain of others with grace. And that, more than anything, is what this world needs. People who have walked through fire and learned how to bring water. The saying in Zen, the obstacle is the path. At first, it sounds almost cruel. Why would we walk straight into what hurts us? But the more we resist our challenges, the more power they have over us. Stepping into them with mindfulness changes the story. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that when we touch our suffering with awareness, we can transform it into understanding. And understanding, in turn, becomes compassion. This is not about forcing positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about facing life exactly as it is and discovering that our hearts are more spacious than we ever imagined. I once heard an American veteran share his journey of healing from PTSD. For years after returning home, he couldn't sit still without being flooded by memories of war. He avoided quiet spaces, kept the TV on at all times, and numbed himself with alcohol. Then, a friend invited him to a mindfulness retreat for veterans. On the first day, during a guided breathing exercise, he felt panic rising. But instead of running from it, he placed his hand over his heart and said softly, "It's okay. I'm here with you." It was the first time he had met his fear without trying to destroy it. That moment was small, but it was the turning point. Healing began there, not because the pain disappeared, but because he learned to befriend it. Many Americans grow up with the idea that emotions should be managed or controlled. But Buddhist practice offers a different perspective. Emotions are like weather. You don't stop a storm, you watch it pass, knowing it will change. Anger, grief, and fear are natural patterns of the human heart. They are not signs that something is broken. They are signs that you are alive. Mindfulness gives us tools for navigating these storms. A simple practice you can try is stop. S, stop whatever you're doing. T, take a breath slowly and deeply. O, observe what's happening in your body, mind, and emotions. P, proceed with awareness, choosing your next action with care. This practice is used in hospitals, therapy sessions, and corporate settings across the US. Because it's simple and portable, you can do it anywhere, in the middle of a conversation, in a traffic jam, or during a moment of overwhelming news. Shunryu Suzuki, a Japanese Zen master who taught in San Francisco, once said, "The most important point is to accept yourself and stand on your own 2 feet." Acceptance here doesn't mean resignation. It means starting from reality, instead of starting from a fantasy about how things should be. From that place, real change becomes possible. I've seen people transform when they stop fighting the truth of their lives. A single mother who stopped blaming herself for the divorce and began writing poetry about her mornings with her son. A businessman who admitted to himself that his work was burning him out and finally took weekends to hike in the mountains. A teenager who decided to speak openly about his anxiety instead of hiding it behind jokes. None of these people erased their challenges, but by meeting them head on, they uncovered new strength and purpose. This is the gift hidden in pain. It forces us to strip away what's unnecessary. It shows us what matters. It invites us to live more intentionally, more awake, more connected to what's real. And when we walk this path, we find something unexpected. The obstacle is no longer an obstacle. It becomes the ground we stand on. School. Then relationships are our most challenging classroom. They have the power to crack us open, sometimes in ways that feel unbearable. But they also offer the richest soil for growth. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "In a true relationship, you don't just love. You practice. Practice listening. Practice understanding. Practice forgiveness. I once met a man at a retreat in Vermont who spoke about his painful divorce. He said, "I thought I lost everything. My family, my home, my sense of who I was. But what I really lost was my illusion that love means never hurting each other." In the quiet space of meditation, he began to see love differently. It was no longer about perfection. It was about showing up, even in the mess, even when it's hard, and staying curious about the other person's pain. American meditation teacher Tara Brach calls this radical acceptance. It's the willingness to see people as they are, not as we wish they were. That doesn't mean tolerating harm or staying in relationships that damage us. It means letting go of the fantasy that anyone, including ourselves, will ever be flawless. The freedom in this shift is enormous, because when we stop demanding perfection, we make space for compassion. Sometimes the person we need to extend that compassion to the most is ourselves. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that if you can't offer love and understanding to yourself, it's very difficult to offer it to anyone else. And yet, in American culture, self-compassion is often misunderstood as selfishness. The truth is the opposite. When we care for our own wounded heart, we create more capacity to care for others. I remember a story shared by Sharon Salzberg about her teacher in India, who told her, "Until you love yourself, your love for others is incomplete." At first, she resisted. She wanted to serve, to help, to give. But over time, she saw that giving from an empty well only leads to resentment and burnout. Learning to hold her own suffering with kindness became the foundation for everything else. One simple relationship practice you can try comes from Thich Nhat Hanh's community: deep listening and loving speech. When someone you love is upset, you don't interrupt, correct, or defend yourself. You simply listen with the intention to help them suffer less. When it's your turn to speak, you choose words that are honest but also gentle, words that build a bridge instead of a wall. This practice, when done sincerely, can save relationships that feel beyond repair. Relationships also reveal our blind spots. They reflect back the patterns we can't always see in ourselves, the impatience we didn't know we had, the tenderness we didn't know we were capable of. Pain in relationships is often a signpost, pointing to the work we still have to do. Jack Kornfield says, "If you want to know about your patience, spend time with someone who irritates you." It's a humorous reminder that the people who challenge us most are often our greatest teachers. Over time, you start to see that every relationship, whether it lasts a lifetime or just a season, leaves a mark. Some leave a wound. Others leave a gift. Many leave both. But if we approach them with mindfulness, every single one can leave us more awake, more open, and more capable of love. And perhaps that's the hidden miracle. Even when a relationship ends, the love we practiced inside it doesn't disappear. It becomes part of us, woven into the way we smile at a stranger, the way we comfort a friend, the way we forgive ourselves for being human. If suffering arrives in the form of heartbreak or deep loss, sometimes it shows up in quieter, everyday ways. The email that ruins your morning, the medical bill that makes your chest tighten, the heavy traffic that steals an hour of your life. These may seem small compared to life's big tragedies, but over time, they can wear us down, chipping away at our energy and joy. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded his students that mindfulness isn't just for the meditation cushion. It's for the grocery store, the office, the doctor's waiting room, the moments when life feels most ordinary. In fact, these small daily struggles can be powerful teachers if we know how to meet them. I once spoke with a nurse in New York City who said she used to go home exhausted and bitter after every shift. The hospital was understaffed, patients were demanding, and the stress felt endless. Then she began a simple mindfulness habit. Every time she washed her hands, a ritual she did dozens of times a day, she took one slow breath and silently said, "I am here." It didn't change the workload, but it changed her relationship to it. She found small moments of rest inside the chaos, like drops of cool water in a desert. In the US, where the pressure to be productive is constant, we're often taught that pausing is lazy. But in mindfulness practice, pausing is a form of power. It interrupts the automatic chain reaction of stress. It gives us a moment to choose our response instead of being dragged by our impulses. Jack Kornfield tells a story about a businessman who came to a retreat feeling completely burned out. He wanted to quit his job and escape to the mountains. Instead, Kornfield gave him a different assignment: to take 3 mindful breaths before answering his phone, before opening his laptop, and before walking into any meeting. At first, it felt silly, but after a week, he noticed that his stress level dropped dramatically. And more importantly, his relationships with his coworkers improved. Health challenges, too, can be transformed through mindfulness, not because we can always heal the body, but because we can learn to live fully within it. Jon Kabat-Zinn, the American pioneer of mindfulness-based stress reduction, has worked with thousands of people facing chronic pain. His approach isn't to fight the pain, but to turn toward it with curiosity. Where is it strongest? Does it have a texture, a rhythm? By observing without judgment, many patients discover that the pain changes moment to moment, and that their suffering lessens when they stop resisting. Financial stress, another common American burden, also offers a chance for practice. Instead of spiraling into fear about the future, we can bring our attention to what's here now. This doesn't mean ignoring real challenges. It means dealing with them from a calmer, clearer place. A young single father I once met said that during a time of unemployment, he began starting each day with gratitude practice. Some mornings, the only thing he could think of was, "I'm grateful for this cup of coffee." But that was enough to keep his mind from drowning in fear. Everyday suffering is unavoidable, but it doesn't have to be meaningless. When we meet our small struggles with presence and compassion, we train the mind and heart to stay steady when bigger storms come. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, peace is every step. Each small mindful act is a seed that grows into resilience. Now, we've walked through many shapes of suffering: heartbreak, loss, daily stress, and the silent weight of unspoken pain. We've seen how mindfulness, as taught by Thich Nhat Hanh and many great American teachers, offers not an escape from life's storms, but a way to walk through them with grace. The truth is, suffering will always be part of being human, but so will beauty, so will love, so will the chance to grow into someone wiser, kinder, and more alive. The path of transformation isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. When we meet our pain with curiosity, when we breathe with it instead of running from it, we begin to see that life's sharp edges can also carve us into something new. I remember a retreat where Thich Nhat Hanh was asked, "How do we keep from drowning in the world's suffering?" He smiled and said, "When you take care of your own suffering, you are already helping the world." This isn't selfish. It's the foundation for compassion. A steady heart can hold more, give more, and forgive more. In American life, where the pace is fast and the demands are high, mindfulness can feel like a luxury. But it is, in fact, a necessity. It's what allows us to pause before speaking words we can't take back. It's what gives us the patience to listen when we disagree. It's what helps us notice the blue of the morning sky or the warmth of a friend's laughter, even when the bills are due and the news is heavy. Transformation is rarely dramatic. It's slow, steady, and often invisible to the outside world. But you will know it's happening when you start to respond to life differently, when your first instinct in pain is not to push it away, but to sit beside it and ask, "What are you here to teach me?" Every breath is a chance to start again. Every moment is a doorway to peace. And every act of kindness toward yourself or someone else is a ripple that can reach farther than you can imagine. If you found something here that speaks to your heart, let it be more than words on a page. Try one of the practices. Hold your suffering gently. Listen deeply to someone you love. Offer yourself the same compassion you would to a dear friend. Over time, you will see that the mud was never meant to bury you. It was meant to grow your lotus. For more guidance, gentle practices, and real stories of transformation, you're welcome to join us at Mindfulness, a space where we continue this journey together, one breath at a time.